Good evening and welcome to MSP Unplugged Tech Talk Tuesday, end of the year wrap up. I'm your host, Rick Smith. This is the place to learn tips, tricks, and strategies to help run and grow your IT service business. Whether you're a one person shop or leading a team for the journey, this is the place for you. Let me introduce to you all my co host, a man who really needs no introduction, fan favorite, vendor favorite, the one, the only, Mr. Paco Lebron. How are you today, sir?
Rick Smith, how you doing this fine Tuesday night evening?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's been a long day as we come to the close of a long year.
Has it
But
really been a long year, or are you just trying to josh me here?
well, you know what? That's relative because some days you can say that and some days you can't, right? I'm
It sure
sure.
went fast, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and we say that every year. So you know what? Let me enjoy my time that I have here and not think that it's gone by so fast. But yeah, this is our wrap up of Tech Talk Tuesday for the year. We will be on air on Thursday for our final year end Resource Thursday. But this will be our final Tech Talk Tuesday. So what we'll talk about is how we wrap up the year and what we're some steps we're taking to do that. Okay. In a bow,
You wrapping
right?
it up with a tight little bow. What are you talking about? Come
With a
on
tight
now.
little
You got to
bow.
be with it.
Okay. Okay, Mr. LeBron. So let's start with you then. What's your end of the year plans? Or hey, here's a more important question, and I guess we should have put this in the title. When do you officially stop working for the year? And then
Can't
how do
stop,
you
won't
do that
stop,
winding
baby.
down?
What are you talking about? It keeps on, the train keeps going. No, we officially quote unquote stop probably right before Christmas Eve. I think that's when a lot of businesses tend to shut down. They'll start visiting loved ones. It's kind of a dead week between Christmas and New Year's. So that's kind of close to when we kind of stop, right? But you know, as far as what time do we take off? We normally take off half of Christmas Eve and all of Christmas Day. And for those that don't celebrate on my team, those are the long holiday breaks, is what we call them, the PTO time that we have give off. So since Christmas Eve and Christmas Day are on the weekend, we observe it on Monday. So that's when it's federally observed. So we'll be closed Monday, and then we'll get back at it on that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday again we'll be kind of closed out. So a lot of my team is taking off or kind of close to taking off time in the year end, which is always a hectic time because I didn't realize that my level 1 tech was on vacation again this year or this week. So that was a bit of a surprise for me and then with others there. So we're actually going to start playing around with unlimited PTO next year for people. So we'll see how that all goes. But that's technically when we close per se. But, I try to squeeze in a couple upsells and deals before the new year. So it don't stop for me until the 30th of the 2022, because I doubt anyone Saturday the 31st will be doing anything. So for me, sales wise, it'll be the 30th. Support, it'll be on and off depending on who needs it, but really everything kind of slows down after the 23rd.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah.
Now, what about you, Mr. Smith? When do you stop?
Pretty much the same. I was planning on stopping actually on Thursday, but that's not going to happen. I just found out I've been working on a project this week in New York City, and some of the parts we were waiting on to come in to complete the project won't get delivered until Thursday, which means Friday will be in there getting the last of it completed, which is fine. It should be a easy half going day. I don't think anyone that we're doing work for will be in the office, so it'll make it a little easier. It won't be crowded. So hopefully Friday by, let's say, noon, I'll be calling it quits and getting in my Santa suit and just relaxing for the rest of the weekend. But again, one of the things is funny about this, when you own your own business, and now again, I'm not the luxury of being big time like Mr. LeBron here with 50,000 employees. No, I'm just joking. But one of the things I've noticed every year is I just when I feel like it, particularly now that I just can roll down and work from home, excuse me. I just roll down to my office and do work when I want to. What I have started doing is I don't work on Sundays anymore. I don't even come in the office on Sundays. So, um, but what I'm thinking about, there's all these things that you want to get done that you've planned to get done all year long that now it's like, okay, I have 5 days left. I have 6 days left. I have 7 days left. Red alert there. Can I get can I get those last bit of things done? So there's a couple of little admin things I want to get done. So I'll probably come down to my office and work on those things over next week and over the break time when it slows down. But other than that, I don't expect any major things to go on.
Okay. Now, when you go ahead, and I'm messing with the light because it's glaring with my big old dome that I have here, so I'm trying to get some brightness out of it. Now, when you go ahead and actually stop, are you forcing yourself to stop, or is it kind of just the work is not there for you to continue when you're trying to start your business?
It's a little bit of both. I say this from experience, you have to force yourself to stop and take some breaks. You cannot do this 24/7 all the time. It cannot be the only thing you focus on. You'll burn out, right? So
Right.
I'll say yes. First and foremost, you should force yourself to stop. But normally, if you have things in order around this time of the year, it should be very little, particularly field work or client work that needs to be done. I'm sure there's a few admin things. Again, like I say, I got a couple of things I wanted to get in order before the year started, and this time represents some good downtime for me to actually get that done. The phones won't be ringing or shouldn't be ringing. It won't get see email popping up every 10 minutes with a ticket going through, or David pinging me to figure out how to do something, or so I think it should be a pretty calm week. So the goal really is I'm going to try to relax, but I'm also going to do, again, like I said, those few things that I could spend maybe 30 minutes, an hour on, and get it knocked out, and then go do whatever.
Okay. Now, do you have a similar story from this past week, from last week, that we could possibly share with the listeners today?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Huh? Well, I have a request actually, and I know I can Google this, but I did not yet. So I'm putting it
Okay.
out to the community. If anybody has any suggestions, I'd love to know. I have a client who has two machines, right? Well, he has several machines, but he works off two machines. So one is an older machine. It works fine. It's running Windows 10. We just replaced it with a newer machine, but he's an accountant, so he didn't really want to bring forward all of the old accounting programs onto the new machine. He said, hey, if I take the previous 4 years and leave them on this machine, and then everything prior to that can leave on the old machine. Turns out, of course, he had to go back to the old machine and pull up a tax return or something he had to pull up. Anyway, his issue is not getting the data. His issue is printing. He's trying to print from the old machine, which is still on the network. He can RDP in, which is the way I set it up for him. He can just RDP in, but he can also, it's also on the network, so it can be accessed. Just throw a keyboard, throw a monitor on there, and he can do it that way. Anyway, the problem is the print, it won't print. So I logged in to see what was going on. And the issue seems to be that the print spooler keeps turning off. So I am trying to figure out A, why that is happening, and B, how to fix that. So if anyone's run into that issue, knows how to fix that issue, I would greatly appreciate it. I will be honest, I have not taken the time yet. I just discovered that was the issue. So I have not taken the time yet to research it, to figure it out. So I'm looking for an easy way out and hoping somebody has a suggestion for me.
Sounds good. Sounds good. That seems like hopefully an easy fix, maybe a D7 or a repair tech fix situation that you can click a button and fix that out. Or a good old tech, what's that one we used to use all the time? Tweaking all in one used to be the tool of the day back in the day to solve that. I'm not sure if you remember that one. So
The funny thing about it is, I haven't used a lot of those tools in a while, and now it's like this is going to be the third time in probably the last 2 months that I'm going to need something like that to probably help me fix a problem. So they never go away; they never die.
this is true, and it's funny because you say that because we're kind of in the build where like if it's not a PC or like we've standardized our business, right? So if it's not a hard drive or it's not RAM or it's whatever, and it's not something that we're trying to spend to, if it has warranty, we're shipping
Right?
that sucker
Exactly.
back and getting it repaired and
It's got to go.
send it back from there. Yeah, and if it's over 5 years, it's got time to get replaced, right? So that's kind of the times that I've done that. I haven't repaired a computer probably in quite some time. Um, and that tells you that it ages you. It's funny because so my story is more of, you know, it's kind of a hokey rah rah keep going type situation. But I was talking to Jimmy Hatzel over at Quick Pass this past Monday, and sneak preview did an episode with him on their new podcast that they come out called Startup Stories. So MSP Startup Stories, check it out. So they got a couple episodes in the can. Corey
I've heard a
Kirkendall,
couple of them.
good friend of ours here in the show, so definitely check him out. And so yeah, Jimmy's doing that for on behalf of Quick Pass. But no, so we were kind of going through the whole process and kind of going through stories, and we were really trying to talk about like early days, what I did before the business, what I did now, what was the pivotal thing. And so tip slash story is you gotta, the best thing to gamble on is on yourself, and you got to really try and push through for that piece. So he asked me, well, what was the things that I did to change for the growth of the business? And so the one thing that I've always kind of really toted about is really reaching out to that big MSP that's in the area, being able to go ahead and find someone that has a bigger quantified that you can't handle, right? And build a relationship with them, build a referral agreement where you can take on less of theirs that you can support, and if they're okay with it, send them a referral, meaning a referral amount, or work out a referral agreement, because that's how we really were able to survive in the beginning of our MSP. So that was one tip to kind of give away of really focusing on those partnerships, because it's relationships that help you become successful. So don't knock really trying to get to a lot of just those in your neighborhood, because there's quite a bit of MSP, especially in some of the more urban cities and slash not so much rural, but there's always someone you can gain a lot of knowledge from if it's not a referral agreement, to help you kind of further along. So that's all about building networks and such.
Absolutely.
That's my story.
That's your story for today. So let me ask you. Okay, let's talk about our clients and what we're doing. Is there anything special? I know we talked about gifts and all of those things, but is there anything you have to do, or anything special you got to do to basically end the year with any clients? Just, I guess the better way to put that is there's always that one client that something's lingering, outstanding, the end of the year that you want to get done. You have any of those?
So I got two projects that I got to get done. I have one where we're kind of troubleshooting some networking equipment before they kind of go into the new year. And two, we have a client that upgraded some desktops, but he had a real big, a huge type of issue with the Comcast modem kind of going out on him. So we had to go ahead and figure out what's going on with the hotspot, because the hotspot didn't kick in. So we got to go ahead, take a look at that shop, figure out what's going on. And the hope is, so we got to go ahead and retrofit a bunch of wireless dongles on all of these desktops, so that in the event that there is no internet connectivity, they can all jump on the hotspot and continue to keep working on their system. So that's kind of where we're kind of all at right now. But those are probably the two big projects that we have, outside of every agreement that we've kind of signed for our raised rates that we've been kind of mustering through. And so those are kind of the biggest project probably left, is making sure all our clients that we're trying to raise the rates for that we continue to keep doing so. So that's kind of where we're at right now. What about you, Mr. Smith? What you got going on that's lingering outside of this New York project you got working this past week?
Well, that's lingering. I got a couple of small things. Some of my clients we have keys for the office for. So
Okay.
maybe if I'm adventurous over the holiday, the ones that are closed, I'll pop in and do a few of those things that I've been wanting to do. Like one, I want to do one of the offices. I'm either gonna do it over the holiday, or we're gonna schedule it and do it one weekend when they're closed. And that's just basically a network room cleanup. Things are out of hand over there. And it's one of those things where you say, okay, I'm gonna get to it, I'm gonna get to it. And you just run out of time. So if we don't have the time over the holiday to get it done, I'm definitely going to schedule it for the first or second weekend in January, so that it is not a lingering scenario. So that's one thing. And the rest really is, I am going to, well, not, actually, this is not for clients. This is for me. And one of the things I want to do, I am a big, big, big believer now in getting these QBRs done. And I don't mean them as quarterly business reviews, as Marnie calls them quality business reviews. So I like to just get those, start getting those in order and getting on a cadence with clients to, all clients don't need them quarterly. Some need them semi-annually, however it may be. But I want to actually have a schedule and get it done and get it booked with the client to get it done, and at least go over with everybody where they stand. One of the things I realize, until you show clients certain things, they really sometimes don't pay attention to all the things you do for them. And I think this is a good way to remind them. And I'm just going to give this is, not going to be a story, but just a quick thing. I had a conversation with a client, and we were talking about their website, domain name, and all of those things. And I was just like, yeah, the conversation was in passing. I said, yeah, we just renewed your domain and your hosting. And she was like, what do you mean? I said, well, yeah, we renewed your domain for another year. And, we paid for the hosting fee for the year, for the next coming year, for your website. And I know we've had this conversation more than once, but it was like, wait a minute, we pay, you pay for that? Well, yeah, I mean, well, you pay for it, but we pay,
Oh, you gonna pay?
We remember to do it for you because, so you don't forget. She goes, wow, Rick, that's great, because guess what? I would have forgot because I didn't even know we had to do that. And I was like, yeah, that's what we're here for. I said, and I always make the joke of my clients, particularly the ones, I said, that's why we get paid the small bucks, to remember stuff like that. But, and so I think just a quick reminder for all of our clients on the things we do, because they know what we don't do, right? They can remind us quickly of what we said we would do, we didn't do, or what we don't do that somebody else told them we should be doing, or whatever. But we also need to remind them of what we do. And that's a lot of do-dos, but you get me.
Yep. No, I think yeah, it's one of those where trying to get all inclusive is really the big piece, right? And really trying to figure out on how do we move forward on just reminding clients on what we do, right? And there's a lot of it that, it's that fine balance of what do you tell them, and not getting into the weeds of things, and what are the things you do tell them without boring them / trying to figure out what to do. I think it's a big piece where you have to really try and figure out what you want to do to communicate that to your business or to your clients. I think there was one time where we had a client that, we raised their rates, and, they're doing their due diligence and they're trying to figure out what they want to do. And the biggest piece to that is, okay, great, you can go ahead and shop around. And so they reply back and they say, hey, we're shopping around, we're doing our due diligence, our board of directors are asking for this. Can you tell us what is the, one of the vendors had this question: who's your email provider and who's your cloud vendor? And so I said, well, we're on Microsoft 365, but I'm thinking you're referring my cloud vendor is the Cloud VPN. And, I said, it's a proprietary SaaS cloud VPN. Like, not going to make it easy for the guy to try and do apples to apples and try and nickel and dime us so they can get the business, which, again, something that Jeff Hallish has always said over the years was when he was doing the show is that if a client leaves you for price because they're looking for nickel and diming you, they were never a client to begin with.
They were never a client.
So
Exactly.
because they just don't realize the value, right? And so unfortunately, we're a value-centric business, and that's what we're trying to figure out and kind of move forward from there. So and then sometimes when you try to be inclusive on those, it warrants other conversations. Like, so I actually just literally right now, this morning, I had one of the biggest pitches that I had for the sales of the business, and come to find out that the HR and the business head of that business have now actually are stepping to the side and now are transitioning it over to the IT people at the conservice at the client's set over there. I said the client's name, so hopefully they're not listening. But basically, being able to go ahead to their global IT company, which rightfully so, because we had a really great conversation with them on how we can supplement each other and kind of focus and really be into that piece. And so it really allowed us to understand on how do you communicate the inclusiveness and how do you communicate on not being able to say, yeah, we are taking care of some things and we're not taking care of others. So it's always that fine line balance of how do you communicate to your clients on the value you provide them without really boring them to sleep, and them actually understanding it is the value.
Right. And I think that's the biggest piece. And we talk about that a lot, but we talked about last week, we also talked about recession or talk of recession, talk of a downturn, things like that. And the most important thing is to be sticky to your clients, that get them to recognize the value that we bring to them. Because if you're looked at as only the computer guy or the IT company, then you're dead in the water, right? You have to be more than that, have more value to the customer, to the client than that. And, that's something we all should focus a lot more on, is what we bring to the table is a lot more than just fixing the computers. Right. So, and this is, shifting a little bit, talking about next year is one of my biggest goals, is to make sure that we are always offering value and then communicating that value to our customers. Because one of the things that happens, we do a lot of things that they don't realize. And that simple thing about paying making sure the domain is paid, making sure that the hosting is paid for the website. I'm the one who has communicated with the webmaster when certain things needed to be fixed or done, and just making sure that the client realizes that those things don't happen in a vacuum, and that they do, those things don't just automatically, just occur. We are taking care of those things. So providing the value and then communicating the value is probably one of my biggest goals for next year. And I know we started out with end of the year, but I am transitioning a little bit into what I'm trying, some of the things I like to just make sure we focus on going into next year.
No, don't do that. You're taking away the content for the next year. God love it. Why don't we go ahead and shift this conversation around? And why don't you go ahead and tell me who was probably one of the most impactful vendors that you have worked with this year? And you got to pick one. And it's not saying that they're better than the other, but you can, maybe I'll let you get some wiggle room. But the problem is that when you let Rick Smith go ahead, Rick Smith, you give him enough road, he's going to take off on you. So I'm just telling you in general, if you could pick one vendor that really was instrumental in your business, who would that vendor be that you could say?
Wow. One vendor.
One vendor. And it's not saying that they're better than the rest of you're using. It's who was it that really made the most impact for you this year and getting done? And it could be whatever, internal, external. What was it that allowed you from there?
I'm going to honestly say Lifecycle Insights.
Okay.
If I had to pick
shout out to
one,
Marty Stockman and Alex Farling over at Lifecycle Insights. Hey, if you want to check them out.
If I had to pick one, I'd say, and that's again, it's relative, but if I had to pick one, I say it's them. And the reason is for the reasons I just spit out earlier. from using their product or learning to use their product, I am realizing, how to communicate value that I'm giving, how to communicate, how to communicate what we represent. So I think for me, that has had a great impact for me this year. Now it did happen towards the end of the year, but no matter when it happened, if I had to think off the top of my head right now, it would be life cycle insights. And I know later on I'm gonna kick myself because it's gonna be somebody else I should have mentioned as an honorable mention. But anyway,
Nope, that's all. That's what it's all about. Is the impromptu-ness of trying to figure out what we're talking about today. So we want to do some retrospect of year end kind of things of that nature. So now it's good to know that Life Cycle Insights is that vendor of choice for you.
how about you, Paco? Yeah, I'm not gonna let you.
Oh
get
damn!
off
I didn't know you were gonna ask me. No, no. I gotta say it has to be synchro. I think really that PSA and RMM, we have been really trying to figure out efficiencies and what is the best way to get our business in the right place. And we did quite a few things. We ended up slowing down sales. We ended up stopping sales. In the beginning of the year, we hired new people to try and help. But it wasn't really until the light bulb that really went off was bringing on John internally, really trying to shape on just getting to good. That's kind of been the theme of this year is let's get to good. Everyone else is trying to shoot for the moon, and they're grabbing every shiny little toy and thing and trying to figure out how to get where they got to go, but no one is aiming to get to good. No one is just trying to get the foundation done. Everyone is trying to get you need this, you need that, you need that. And you're just building on shaky foundation. And especially for me, coming from being a one-person show back in March of 2020, and then now fast forward, that's literally close to 3 years that we had to figure out a full business. And for those that don't know me in my past life, I was a help desk manager, not once, but twice, and got fired and demoted on both times for being a help desk IT manager because I am not a manager. I am an engineer at heart. And so that is what is really, and there's a lot of skill sets I had to learn is just being a business owner, being a salesperson, being able to build relationships, being that, and divesting and understanding on divesting on myself for those traits and investing in my team. And it wasn't until John being able to bring that out. Now, what does all that freaking mean? So it wasn't until those frameworks and really listening or reading the book, The Phoenix Project, right? On understanding that there's 4 types of work. And I'm going to be on this for the next several months, if not the years to come. And, we spoke with Synchro, they were already on task to releasing those 2 efficiency reports that, a lot of people don't understand how powerful those reports are. And now being able to track and redo our entire ticketing system and our entire customer workflow to focus on what those 4 types of work, we are making some headway on really focusing and bringing, not being proactive. So, there's always that, you got to be proactive, right? Because you can't be reactive. We're even taking it a step further where it's saying, yeah, we care about the customer, we care about the client, we care about being proactive, but what are we doing to provide them value? What is the value centric item that we are bringing to them? And quite frankly, that's how you're kind of moving forward from there. So that's what, Synchro has allowed us to do. We've been able to update that. And, it's been a real big helpful in everything that we're doing as we're starting to now consolidate and really focus on what we're trying to do.
Okay. I'm going to take what you said, and that's going to lead to another question. In your business, what is the biggest change you've made, whether it's business wise or personal, that has had the best impact on your business?
What is the best change I made? So that would probably have to be, I ended up moving. So my previous head of office operations was doing 3 duties. She was the account manager, she was office coordinating, and she was also trying to focus on the financials as well. And so what we did was we split off that role where we gave her what she was really good and passionate about, which was managing our clients. And then we hired 2 new people to focus on the office coordination and then the finances. So what ended up happening on the finance side is we actually outsourced it to someone else because who we hired ended up being better at sales. So that person has since gone on maternity leave and it's returning in January. But that would probably be the most pivotal, is adding those 2 roles, allowing my client success manager to really focus on our clients, has shown the amount of just where I was having the hands on the rope just enough that it got to the point where I had to figure out how can we maintain that consistent communication and contact. And that's what we were able to achieve this year. So I feel a lot better on the pulse of our clients just because there's someone actually monitoring that versus me saying, damn, I haven't heard from clients so and so in 6 months. Like, I hope they're still around, and figure it out from there.
Cool.
Now,
And
for you, I will go ahead and ask this question in there, is what change do you wish you would have made in this year that probably would have helped benefit you moving forward on your business?
letting go. Learning to, and it's one of my goals for the year. But it's when you've been a solo business owner for a certain amount of time, or forget it, when you own your own business, and everyone I'm sure can relate to this, and particularly when you were wearing all of the hats, not many hats, but all of the hats, right? As you start to bring people in, it's still hard to let go of certain things. You end up micromanaging. You end up, giving someone an assignment, but still doing it as well. You know what I mean? Or watching over their shoulder and not giving them the freedom to let them do it. So one of the things I am solely focused on is, if you hire someone and you trust them, you must verify, or you must, you still got to mind the store, but you got to trust them to do their job. And that's the only way you can do your job, is if you trust them to do theirs. Because if not, you might as well continue to wear all the hats and not, basically, and not hire them, right? Why pay somebody to do a job and you're going to do it for them anyway? So
Right.
that is the biggest thing for me, is just learning to let go of certain things. I can't fit them on my plate really anyway, and I don't want to do them. They only get done by me because all the years in the past they had to get done by me. So just letting go of some things.
Gotcha.
So that's my
Okay.
biggest wish I would have done sooner thing. But I am going to answer the other one. The question I asked you. And that is, this is because I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. My biggest, I don't know if you want to call it an achievement, but my biggest personal task that I did do was learn to start saying no, right? And start saying no to clients, start saying no to doing things that don't fall within what my primary mission and focus is. Start saying no to people who want to do it their way and not the way, I have it laid out to be done. So, that is just one of the, it has made certain things, it's easier. And sometimes you don't like, I'm not a person who enjoys conflict, right? So I try to avoid conflict, but sometimes you think about things and you think there's going to be conflict. And if you just lay down the law and say, this is the way it is done for this reason, you don't have to be nasty about it, just matter of factly about it. People respect that. And sometimes you're afraid to make change for the wrong reasons. I don't know if that makes sense. You're anticipating what may happen. And then what ends up happening is totally opposite. You've spent so much time agonizing over something that was not a big deal. All the client needed to know, or whoever needed to know, was where you stood on it. Say where you
Yeah.
stand on it, and if it, for sound business reasons, um, things will work out fine, or they should. If they don't work out fine, then they weren't meant to be, basically.
Yep. Well, we have Facebook user that says that they agree with you. So for those that are on Facebook, you do got to click that setting on StreamYard to allow permissions, so we know who you are on the live stream. But apparently, you have somebody on Facebook that says yes, they agree with you.
Hey, every now and then I come up with 1 point. No,
Hey,
but
sometimes you got
I
to
think
run
it's
with it.
important though. So
No, I hear you.
I'm sorry.
No, I hear you.
Oh, okay, no, and so I'm thinking about, just as we go through, this little tit for tat. It's your turn, or your question this time.
Oh yeah, no, I got him. I'm ready. I'm locked and loaded.
Okay, let's go.
As John Dubisky says, I'm 5x5 ready to go. Now, as we're going ahead into the new year, what is the one thing? Because we're both Synchro users. What are you trying to do in Synchro that's going to help automate or benefit your business as you move forward?
Learn how to use it. No, I think here, one of the things. Oh, that's Kurt Soderquist that said that. Hey, Kurt.
Oh, okay.
So one of the things with Synchro, and I think this happens with a lot of our products, but I think our RMM, PSA, Synchro, and I'm sure people who use other products can probably claim to this as well. We don't use all of the features. We use a subset of what the system has to offer. We pick out what we need, what's quick, what's easy, what works for us right now, and that's what we do. Like you said, though, like you talked about the reports. I've yet to pull a report from Synchro. The only, and I'll be honest with you, and if anybody from Synchro is listening, I will be calling you about this. The only report I pull from Synchro is the AV report, because I always think that it's wrong based on what when I get my bill each month.
Oh, okay. So I learned this from support. The bill you receive from Synchro is of the usage that you had the previous month. So, for example, if you get the bill this month, so like mine it comes on the 3rd of every month. That third bill is from the usage the previous 30 days that you had before. So when you get the next one, let's say on January 3rd, it's going ahead and giving you all the usage that you had all of December. So if you go ahead and have that roan, then that's where it goes. So if you remove some of those, I'm sorry, it's the 30 days before that. So I'm going to reread that email. So I believe like if you got the email, your thing on the 3rd, it's all of the usage in October that was tallied into for that. So when you get your bill on the 3rd, it'll give you, if you can't remove any licenses, if you add any licenses, will get tallied into that. Unless the billing system has changed. That's how I was told from there. And the only reason why I know that, because I had the same. So the only reason that's the reason for that is because I had the same question, because I was like, I swore I added all these EDR licenses. Why am I not being billed for them? And I was told, oh, you will be. And sure enough, they were, and they came on the next bill. So that's how.
And I was the opposite. I swore I removed all these EDR licenses.
So, but yeah, no, so I hear that a lot, right? Is that they want to use all the things inside of Synchro, but the question becomes, or more, but the question is, what is that? Because there's so many components inside of Synchro, because you have ticketing, like a lot of people don't understand, like you can literally run your entire MSP inside of Synchro. Like you have ticketing, you have your RMM, you have the PSA functionality of it, you have your reporting, you have your invoicing, you have your estimates, you have your purchase orders, you have your inventory, you have your ability to sync all of your stuff with vendors, you have your integrations, you have your app centers, you have your ability of being able to control the scripting, adding your policies so that you can have a one-click install. I mean, there's so many things that you can go inside of Synchro. So the question is, what are you trying to do the most out of it? And I know you said more, but what is it for you that's going to be like your top hit? Like, man, I would love to figure out how to do X, because that I believe would help me a lot in the long run. Is there something like that you just have been needing to get to? Okay, automation of what?
Ticket automation, better ticket automation. I have the basics.
Okay.
And also just just yeah, ticket automation. That's going to be my answer. I got to do a better job of ticket automation. Justine you got it. Oh no, hold on. Justine just asked the question: is what is the mission critical items you use in Synchro?
So that for me or for you?
Well, you can start because you're the Synchro man.
I mean, I just got love for the people and the product over there. But I think for me that is mission critical inside of the PSA, or I'm sorry, of the Synchro, is probably the PSA customer workflow, and mission critical would have to be the onboarding of systems in policies. I think those two are really the biggest pieces to help on a tech side. Running my business, mission critical is obviously money and being able to figure out that the money is calculated properly. So that is for me on that side. So again, tech side is getting the PSA customer workflow done, which then translate into setting up those agents and endpoints monitoring, which is what I use through policies, which I have all my scripts inside of there, which allow me to do my monitoring, my alerting, my grabbing my BitLocker keys, things of that nature. And we can dive down that rabbit hole if we want a Synchro show later on. But as far as mission critical for money wise is making sure that my contract manager is up to date, making sure my recurring invoices is up to date, linking the two, because the contract manager is what controls what gets billed. Inside the recurring invoices, adding those ticket charges that get quantified and calculated and such in the contract manager. And then inside of the invoicing, making sure you have that automated credit cards and ACH payments set up, because that flow just makes it even that much more easier to get the money deposited into your account. So if you're talking about business and monies, contract manager, recurring invoices. If we're talking tech, it's got to be the ticketing system, PSA, and the policies for allowing me for those one-time or one-click installs for the tools and such that I set up in my stack and monitoring of those endpoints. What about you, Mr. Smith?
Wow, that was a lot. I'm like, wow, do I do that? No, I think no, I'm just playing. I pretty much agree. On the, like if I'm starting Synchro and I'm saying, okay, what's the most important thing for me? And I hate to say this way, but the most important thing is getting paid.
You gotta say it,
right? The most important thing,
absolutely.
You can't survive if you're not getting paid. So 100%. Make sure that the billing is correct. And that means that your products are priced correctly. Clients are being billed what they're supposed to be billed. You're not underbilling.
Yep.
And, and again, you can, whether you use the contract component or not, I understand that is an important factor in this, but whether you use it or not, make sure what you're billing is correct, right? I'd say that's where you start. I'd say then you want to make sure then part of that, I guess, is making sure your assets and your accounts and all of those things are correct, right? So Synchro is on all of the machines is supposed to be monitored, so you're not leaving anything out. That's the RMM side, I guess, of it, right? Making sure that everything is deployed correctly, and then that there's a way, find some kind of checks and balances again to make sure that what's deployed is being billed for, as we talked about, in our conversation about sometimes we miss some things. So I would say, so if you ask me what is mission critical, on the PSA side, it is getting the client information correct and the billing portion right. Then you work up everything else from there, right? Then you start branching out. On the RMM side is making sure that the correct assets are in, the policies again are right, and policies, I'm going to say it this way: policies and Synchro is not a simple thing to master, right? So I think what you should, you build on that. Maybe start with a policy and then branch from that policy onto others. So I guess the best way to say that is, when we talk about creating a stack and we use our basic stack and we deploy whatever you can deploy from Synchro, right? That'll save you tons and tons of time, right? So anything that you can script to deploy from Synchro in a policy, do that. then build from that. You can take that policy, copy it, and build from that going forward. So I think those are probably the two, get paid and get the information in right, get clean data in and get good information in. I think, Justine, I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, tell us that.
Yeah,
We'll
I even break
figure
it down even lower or more on the policy side, right? And yeah, like you said, I mean, I think those who are quote unquote synchro OGs know how the policies used to look, right?
Right.
And then when they updated the policy inheritance feature, it kind of made things a little screwy for those to try and understand both, right? And so they've compartmentalized the way the policy inheritance works now. But really the biggest piece is, what don't you want to have to manually install over and over again? So those are really the big questions. Like, so if you're going ahead and you install, for example, oh, you got a late night call. You go ahead
My
and
phone
have
is always on mute.
That's funny. So for example, if you are installing your RMM and you got to uninstall your managed AV, your live threat hunting, patching, your backup software, is there a way you can script that automatically so that, you don't have to worry about, you get a computer, you install Synchro, and Synchro can script all of those because you've uploaded the EXLs, the EXEs, the MSIs, the scripts to deploy stuff, and mark them all down. Are you enabling, BitLocker encryption on your systems when you install Synchro? Are you retrieving the key and storing it somewhere if you're not using an endpoint manager or a jump cloud or another identity provider? So these are the things that you got to try and figure out, like what can help save you time, which I think that's what we're all trying to do, right? Is what can we save us money, what can save us time, and how can we improve services, right? That's really what we're trying to aim at. So how do you achieve that, right? So I would just, as your homework, for anyone listening, go home, figure out what you have installed, and can Synchro, or and I'm not saying just Synchro, any of your RMM software that you're using, whether you're using Ninja, whether you're using Enable, all the others I can't think of right now, Pulseway, etc. Being able to utilize them in that avenue. But for us, in Synchro, take go home, write down what you want, and see if they can go ahead and do that. That's what I do in our stuff. And that's what's been able to help us alleviate a lot of the manual work, because again, double clicking an installer, yeah, it's a couple clicks. But how many clicks are you going to get to, I was going to say to the Tootsie Pop, but you know what I'm saying? It's basically being able to get to the point of how many is going to add up when you could just do one click, let it ride, and then you just monitor and make sure all your naming conventions and your standardizations are good to go.
Right. Yeah, it's not. I mean, of course, you can click the exe, but the worst part about that is when you got to do it on 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 machines.
100%.
So, again, that's a very good point. I don't want to make this into the what to do in Synchro show, but it is. I do want to say just about if it can be scripted, it can be done in Synchro, which I really appreciate about the program. So, if it can be scripted, Synchro you can pop it in the Synchro and get it done. Somebody's asking if firing off scripts have been smooth for you or problematic.
So, Facebook user, I will go ahead and for those that don't click on the setting to allow StreamYard to see who you are, firing off scripts have been smooth for you or problematic. I have not had any issues firing off scripts. However, I have heard that there are users experiencing some issues with that. I'm hoping that with the recent migration that they recently talked about going to AWS will help with the scaling of that. I know that it's allowing them for logging, but what I will say is that if I have had any failures in my scripts that are firing off, it's usually my fault. It's either that I scripted it wrong or I ran it at the same time as another script, then they collided with each other. I have not had that issue. So recently we are actually migrating off of our current backup product, and we're migrating to a new one. And I noticed that trying to set up a new user in the new backup product, Magnus Box. And so when we were trying to go ahead and set up that user, it kept failing, and it turned out that it's because I reused the name inside of Magnus Box already, so it failed in that part. So I had to go back and figure that piece out. So I haven't experienced that as much, but I'm curious to hear what you're running into, and maybe, you know, if it is a system issue, and I'm sure they'll be willing to hear and kind of help and take care of that.
I have a problem. Can you help me? Recently, I found this. It was really interesting when it happened. Is I have an onboarding script that I run. So for if you're in a policy, basically, I do this two ways. We first do an onboarding script, and that basically just installs some basics.
Okay.
So basically, you go into an onboarding policy. Excuse me. Right. That puts the basics on. That gets us on the system. We check everything that from there. And then we switch the policy to whatever platform you're on, right? I do that for a couple of reasons.
Now, what platform, meaning like what you sold them? Like you have your
right. What have we sold them? Right.
Types of what you've branded to them or what you're selling them or so forth, right?
Correct. Now, the reason we do the first step is to identify any problems that might come up before we hit the second step. Right. So once, it takes a few minutes, maybe 20, 30 minutes. If you we just put an onboarding policy that just adds a few things on the system. And then we get that first sync that Synchro does.
What things do you sync on there, Mr. Smith?
No, the basic Synchro syncs, what they give you all of the, when they give you the feedback, basically of all of the system information.
Okay.
Right. So then you look at that. And then from there, you can figure out next steps, right? So then, you figure out if there's going to be any problems. You look at it. Basically, a quick scan will tell you, everything good, everything bad, blah, blah. And then you move to the second policy. What we were finding was, and David pointed this out to me twice, that it happened. When we moved to that second policy, a lot of the scripts were not firing. 9-8 wasn't firing. We use solutions granted, that wasn't firing. So it would skip the 9-9, it would skip the solution granted, it would drop the not to name all of the stuff in the stack, but it would drop the next two, and then it would skip the fifth one. So 2 out of 5 were getting dropped on, and the other 3 weren't. Couldn't figure out why. I went through, look, and I know I should be beaten the head for this, particularly talking on the show about improving your business. I only go to customer support as a last resort because I'm a knucklehead, and you know what I mean? I'm a knucklehead and I'm a tech and I want to figure out why it doesn't happen. Right. So I sit there and I mess with it. So what I found was I deleted the script, put it back in the policy, and then it worked. Why that happened, I have no clue, but it happened that way. So, I'm still going to reach out at some point after I find out why I'm still being charged for users I thought weren't there anymore. Device. I'm just joking. On the 60-day window I just learned about now. I'm just joking. But I am going to reach out and find out if that was just, is that a fluke? Is it me? Did we do something wrong in the policy? Whatever. But that was to answer the question. Sometimes I had that issue, and what I did was just take out the script, put it back in, and then it worked fine.
Understood. All right, I think we're hitting up the top of the hour. I think we want to go ahead and maybe hit off on a goal, a win, or a loss that you had this week before we go into the new year. Mr. Smith, what's
for this week or this year?
Why don't we go ahead with this year? How about that? Because this is the last show of 2022 for us. Oh, no, that's a lie. The last show will be the last Tech Talk Tuesday for 2022. Why don't you go ahead and tell the audience what do you say was the biggest win that you had this year?
I'm going to say this end of every year, Tech Talk Tuesday. This year was my biggest year in business here.
Nice.
And I met my financial goals this year that I set at the beginning of when we had this conversation last year, when we sat here and talked about this. And I said, we were talking about financial goals. I met my financial goals. I did not meet my business goals. And that's my growth goals I didn't meet, but I met the financial goals. if that makes sense. I didn't grow as big as I wanted to customer wise and endpoint wise, but I did meet the financial goal I set for myself.
Very good. Very
So,
good.
yay, Cosby Kids, yay. Oh, you're too young for that, right?
I know what the Cosby Kids are.
I'm talking about Fat Albert, man.
I
I'm not
know what
talking about,
I was like
okay.
that animated show. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Hey, hey, hey. All right.
Oh, there
So
you go.
yeah. Come on now. I know I'm young, but I ain't that young. I'm getting up there too. But no, I think probably for in business, and funny enough, it's actually not anything ProdigyTeks related. Although we've had a lot of great moments in the year, just being able to expand in our team, finding our rhythm, being able to get close with a lot of my team members, and just knowing their stories and getting a lot more closer with them and understanding kind of their just their motivation to kind of stay with the business. But I think the biggest goal, a biggest win for me was the fact that we were able to throw TechCon Unplugged 2022 with, again, because this was the first year where there is no Jeff, and John took a back seat. He helped us with a presentation, but there was no Jeff or John to rely on this year. So I had to go ahead and reach out to my brother in arms, and hopefully had him. I strapped into a rocket ship and told him let's go, and he said all in, and he took it to the face like if it was in a NASA space training. But I think everyone can see the growth that Rick has had over the years and podcasting, and so that's a big win for us, is being able to throw that event, fixing some past mistakes with relationships, mending a lot of relationships that we've had in the industry, just through some miscommunications and things of that nature, and growing even better. I think that was probably one of the big wins for me personally, and to continue to keep doing this. I think this is something that's a labor of love, right? And glad to have been successful, in my opinion, for 2022, and looking forward to what we have in store for 2023, which I left it to Rick Smith's hands, and God love it. I don't know why I did this, but you all got something coming, and we'll see how this is all going to work. But this is a combined labor of love, and it's going to be an interesting show for sure, and it's probably going to be one of the best yet.
Break.
I said it's one of the best yet. I said it's maybe one of the best.
And I'm gonna say this to everyone: tune in very soon. Let's put it this way: TechCon 2023 is signed, sealed, and ready to be delivered. So we have a venue. we have a venue. We have a date. We have some changes that taking on some feedback that we've gotten from everyone. We have some changes coming up that we think will benefit all of the participants who come, and for those who couldn't make it, I think this is a little more incentive for you to make it next year. And not to mention, again, I'm not giving away any trade secrets. It's in New Jersey, so you really get to go to a real place and see the world. but really, we have some with TechCon Unplugged, we'll be making an announcement soon on what's happening. That'll be very soon on what's happening, and we're going to encourage everyone, again, get your tickets and all of those things. We're going to have some changes to the podcast and the format, and how we're doing some things here to help to bring a little more value to the community, as well as our Facebook community. We'll have some changes going on there, just some things that again, listening to feedback from you all on what you like, what you don't like, what you think is a benefit to you, and what you would like to see more of, or for us to include to make it a better benefit for you. So again, I'm gonna conclude with this, but I always say this is for us, by us, right? To steal Fubu's line. But again, this show doesn't exist, this company doesn't exist, this business, none of this stuff exists without all of us participating together. So Paco and I may sit here on this podcast, but all of you all play a major role in what we do and how we do it and why we do it. So I just, we take all that into account. So look out for 2023. We have some what we believe is some exciting and beneficial things coming along.
Yep,
Come on,
like
Paco,
you said,
finish it up.
we're going. No, I'm saying, and then we'll wrap it up with our spiel. But as we said, we got some changes that we're doing. We heard the community. We are making those changes. Changes of what we did like, what we don't like. The only thing unfortunately I'm gonna have to tell you is that we can't get rid of who you don't like. We're both here to stay, so we're gonna go ahead and have to move forward from there. And with that, I'll go ahead and toss it over to Rick Smith to close us out.
To close us out, that is the part where I say to everyone, tune in every Tuesday and Thursday. Watch the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged or facebook.com/MSP Unplugged. Also catch us on Twitter, and you can also catch us on LinkedIn. What we need you to do is like, subscribe, hit that notification button so you can be notified whenever a new episode is available. And if you think Paco and I have just a face for radio, which some people do, you can just take us on the go with your favorite podcatcher app. We're on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening for the year. Happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. Have a merry, happy one of those. Happy New Year. And I will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.